Ledbury was the scene of horror and bloodshed in 1645. The Civil War raged, and not even this quiet town could escape as Cavaliers and Roundheads clashed. Prince Rupert brought 1,500 men to the town, and a skirmish ensued, the shadows of which still remain. At Ledbury Church, the old wooden doors of the north porch bear the scars of the musket shot. At the Talbot Inn on New Street, see if you can spot a brass plug which marks the spot where a musket ball reputedly passed through the neck of a serving girl and into the oak panelling. In fact, some visitors to the Talbot Hotel in New Street have noted strange happenings, and history even provides a reason for the spectre. A serving girl was accidentally shot in the panelled room during the Civil War skirmish between Cavaliers and Roundheads, although this particular clash may not have been during the Battle of Ledbury itself. Around 2001, Maria, the wife of the landlord, Andy Ward, was in the bar around midnight when all the customers had gone home, and she caught sight of a ghost walking down the corridor where the toilets are. Mrs. Ward felt a sense of cold and saw a dark-haired woman in a white shirt, the same figure that had been seen in other parts of the building over the years, most notably in room 2. Visitors have sometimes been disturbed by feeling of something with them. On occasion, the ghost has been seen, has even made her presence known by sitting on the edge of the bed. One visitor reported strange dreams of a woman's face continually emerging from the darkness, then disappearing. Refurbishments at the Talbot at the beginning of the century seemed to stir up the spirits. And Mrs. Ward reported at the time that when a fireplace in the Elizabethan panelled room was unblocked, doors were slammed shut and opened throughout the building, and there were blasts of icy air. The Feathers Hotel is also haunted by a maid. In February 1999, the owner, David Ellison, reported an incident that left the night porter white-faced and shaken. The ghost in this case was a young girl who's believed to have been murdered in what was the servants' quarters some 200 years ago. She was dressed in a billowing white shift and eventually made her way to the locked door of the bar. When the night porter, believing her to be a guest, asked if she needed a drink, she spun round, stared at him and vanished. At that moment, the sprinklers for the flower displays outside came on, and every toilet in the hotel flushed itself. In addition, sounds of horses have occasionally been heard in the alley that runs alongside the historic hotel, and which would once have been the way to the stables in the days of the stagecoach. The neighbouring Horseshoe Inn has its share of unexplained noises. In the 1970s and 80s, one witness claimed, "I heard footsteps coming up the stairs back in the 1930s. There was definitely a shuffling, then someone turning back." Unexplained footsteps were also heard in the 1960s. A phantom coach and horses has been reported in Home End, outside the Horseshoe Inn. One witness described it, so the account goes, as being completely transparent. The Olive Tree has one of the most fascinating reputed hauntings. A number of witnesses all claim to have seen the spirit of a little girl. The building in Home End is believed to have been a former coaching inn called the Swan, and there have been accounts of people seeing a phantom coach there or hearing the wheels and horses. Ledbury Cabbage Lane, the narrow and historic footpath that links Worcester Road with the churchyard of St Michael's and St Angel's, is a likely place to encounter such an apparition. In the 1920s, A resident was walking down the lane one wintry dusk, saw a tall and shadowy shape cross her path and then cross it again. She had a dog with her on a lead, but the dog was so terrified it broke the lead and ran home. The lady arrived back 20 minutes later, pale and shaken. She later discovered, so the story goes, that the neighbour had suffered a similar ghostly experience in Cabbage Lane. The Cabbage Lane ghost could be far older than that, as the patch probably existed at the time of the Civil War Battle of Ledbury. Another story is of a lonely, undulating stretch was the scene of an accident, probably in the Victorian times, one dark winter's night. A man lifted a turnip in a field in Ledbury, only to find it very closely resembled the right hand of someone, minus the thumb. Rather than eat it, he took it home to show his wife. 6 years earlier, in 1926, a tollkeeper called Gurney had been murdered on the very spot where the turnip had been pulled. The chief suspect was a waggoner named Powell, who was missing a right thumb after an accident. And nothing could be proven, and Powell left the country. The turnip was said to be an exact replica of Powell's right hand, including a wart on his fingers. A report in a local newspaper from 1931, a family had experienced some paranormal activity from a cottage on the Tewkesbury to Ledbury Road that they parked in front of whilst they enjoyed a break from their travels. The cottage appeared to be in disrepair and the garden had been overtaken by weeds, shrubs and ivy. As they sat on their picnic blanket, chattering away to each other, they were startled by a low, groaning noise. They tried to apply logic to the noise, thinking perhaps it was a large vehicle approaching, so carried on chatting. The moaning noise started again, and from this time the family grew scared. It stopped, but began again within a minute or so. The father and the oldest son decided to look into the cottage, thinking it was coming from there. They went inside the building, but nothing nor nobody was there. The father and son returned to the rest of the family, and it was decided they best pack up and leave, which is just what they did. They drove to the next village and started speaking to the locals there, telling them about what they'd experienced. The locals knew the house as Hangman's house. This was due to there having been a murder by hanging that happened at the house many years ago. Many locals witnessed similar activity around the house and the road it stood on. The road is a lonely area, but very picturesque, and the house was in very rough state. Locals said that it would lend to the idea that it was being experienced with something supernatural. A couple of weeks later, a reader of the newspaper wrote about his friend who'd lived in the area of the Hangman's house and had in their possession an old newspaper cutting from 1891, which reported the murder of 4 people living in Hangman's house. The enclosed information, a murder house, a Forthampton friend left at a publishing office a very curious original copy of a small bill measuring 11 foot 6 inches, and had found amongst the collection of papers of the late Mr. John Knight of Downing Farm. It bears the date the 9th of May 1780 and furnished information of the tragedy which had been perpetuated on the previous Sunday of the residence still known as the Murder House. An account of 4 people cruelly murdered in their beds. After the account of the murder, it said that it goes on to say, in the London Gazette, November the 12th, 1781, there appeared an advert giving details of the murders and offering a free pardon to any accomplice. No clues were obtained respecting to the murders for nearly 50 years, but in the year, an aged labourer working for another landowner did in the Worcester Infirmary, who in his last hours confessed that he was implicated in the brutal murder, and that he nobbled one of his victims with a hedge bill, and that all his accomplices were dead. The victims were Edward Gummery and his wife Elizabeth, their daughter Anne, and Elizabeth's brother Thomas Sheen. They all died by having a heavy implement, like an axe, brutally smashed upon their bodies. It's thought that Edward was murdered due to him being employed by the local landowner, putting up fences on the land which some people thought was taking away their rights, and had used the land to walk to various places. Some of the fencing had been burnt down and Edward had put up replacements. Several people had been sent to prison for their part in the burning. It was in 1829 when, on his deathbed, the ex-labourer owned up to his part in these murders. There's a stone tablet at St Faith's Berrow, in Berrow itself, that has an inscription of those victims. It shows just how shocked the local people were at this senseless act of violence and needless loss of life. No actual ghost was ever seen outside Homme House, but a phantom coach continued to be heard every few weeks throughout the years. Nobody was certain what the link between the ghostly coach and the mysterious death might have been, but the fact that the phantom began to be heard so soon after a death caused everyone to assume that some link existed. Perhaps some speculated the coach was a phantom hearse come to collect the dead, but since nobody ever saw the ghost, this could not be known for certain. The ghost was never encountered again after Homme House was demolished in the 1880s. Aylton Court is haunted by the ghost of a young girl who lived here in the mid-19th century. She accidentally was shot by her brother, who tripped as he entered the house while carrying a shotgun. Hellens Manor House most famous story is of the Mehetabel, or Hetty, who eloped with a man considered to be beneath her social class. By the time she was 20, her husband had died, and Hetty returned home, where her unforgiving family locked her in the bedchamber for 30 years because she'd brought social disgrace upon them. Whilst there, she used a diamond ring to engrave a lament on the window pane. It is a part of virtue to abstain from what we love, if it is should prove our bane. Hattie is seen walking around the manor, as is the ghost of a Cromwell-era priest and a naval lieutenant. The Dragon of Mordiford was said to have loved a small girl named Maud, and had nurtured it from infancy. As it grew into adolescence and adulthood, she remained the only person safe from its reign of terror, the only one who could soothe it. A portrait of the dragon appeared on the wall of the main church of the village until 1811, when a vicar ordered it destroyed, as it was a sign of the devil. A reproduction of this painting of the dragon is, however, displayed inside the church. A ghost of Roger became so troublesome that it was trapped within a bottle and buried under his monument. Despite this, he still returns, and to be touched by the hooded shade is an indication that the witness shall die within 1 year. At Penyard Castle, a cave hidden under the castle contains a vast collection of gold and gems. The wealth is protected by a large bird, which never sleeps and attacks anyone who comes too close to discovering the cave. Several legends surround Goodrich Castle. The Great Keep has an alternative name of the Macbeth Tower, after stories of an Irish chieftain was held prisoner there. According to some tales, he died attempting to escape, and his ghost is said to still haunt the tower. During the siege, Alice Birch, the niece of a parliamentarian officer, took refuge in the castle with her royalist lover, Charles Clifford. When it became apparent that the fortress would not be able to withstand the bombardment for much longer, Clifford and his young lover mounted his horse and, under cover of darkness, spurred the beast out of the castle and managed to break through the parliamentarian ranks. Unfortunately, they arrived at the muddy banks of the River Wye. They didn't realise that the heavy rain had swollen its waters. As they attempted to cross the raging torrent, the horse lost its footing and they were swept to the depths. Such was the trauma of their desperate bid for freedom that their bedraggled, earthbound wraiths have been seen on stormy nights using a phantom horse into the wild waters of the River Wye. On other occasions, passers-by, late at night, have seen their poignant spectres staring sadly from the ruined ramparts. King Arthur's Cave is a magical prehistoric cave and shrouded in superstition. The remains of a woolly mammoth and a gigantic man have been unearthed here, as well as bones of exotic animals from saber-toothed tigers to hyenas and lions. According to legend, King Arthur hid from invaders in the limestone cave and buried treasure which is still protected by one of Merlin's spells. Others believe the cave is linked to the tales of King Vortigern. Arthur's stones are the source of many myths and legends. Some say it's where King Arthur killed a giant who, as he fell, left an impression of one of his elbows in the stone. The ancient tomb has served as inspiration for the writer C.S. Lewis. The table on which Alson the lion is sacrificed in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which was based on Arthur's stone. Recent excavations have revealed the chamber was part of a much larger ceremonial landscape and very important to early man. Garway Hill has long been associated with witches. There'll be 9 witches from the bottom of Orcup to the end of Garway Hill, as long as water flow. According to a local legend, a local man mourning the death of his wife was sent to see the wise woman of Garway Hill in the hope that she could lessen his misery. One of the women looked intently into his eyes. "Your wife's not dead," she said, claiming that the fairies had taken his beloved. The witch told the old man to find his wife, and following her instructions, he hid in a spring next to Garway Church at dusk. Mysterious music soon began to play, and he was amazed to see his dead wife alive and dancing. He rushed towards the group of dancers, grabbed his rifle, running as fast as he could. The blood-curdling cries of those chasing him echoed behind. The couple lived together for many years, recounting their astonishing story to all who would listen. Wormelow Tump, no longer present, destroyed in 1896. The ball barrow or burial mound, which once stood in the village, was said to belong to Aram, King Arthur's son. At Hill House, Ross-on-Wye, a servant girl was murdered and dragged through the house. There are no known facts to validate this story, but several groups have come up with similar details. The King's Head Hotel in Ross-on-Wye dates back to the 14th century and is situated in the most picturesque street in the centre of Ross. Until the advent of the railways in the 19th century, the hotel was a small coaching inn. During Georgian times, an extra storey was added and the facade changed to the current one. A tunnel reputedly runs in the cellar past the 12th century well to the old Saracen's Head. Occasionally there have been reports of ghosts and the clatter of horses from time past. I was about to report that I'd stayed at the King's Head and nothing untoward happened, but actually find it was the King's Head in nearby Monmouth and not Ross-on-Wye. In the 1960s and 70s, a lady claimed to have captured a ghost on camera in the cellar of the King Charles II pub in Ross-on-Wye. The lady took this photograph, had not noticed the figure standing on the left. It appears to be a Victorian gentleman holding a lamp in the cellar. There have been reports of apparitions and icy chills in the corridor above the cellar. Pengethley Manor is haunted by a Gulfcote Harriet, who may have died in the fire here in the 1820s. She's particularly fond of 2 bedrooms in the hotel. Hoarwithy, the stretch of the River Wye that runs near, is haunted by a ghost of a woman sailing a boat at very high speed, often against the current and sobbing hysterically.